On a frigid January Saturday, a message echoed across the Atlantic. Thousands gathered in Denmark and Greenland, united in protest against President Trump's renewed push to acquire Greenland. This vast, autonomous island, part of the Kingdom of Denmark, became the center of a powerful display of unity. Greenlandic associations like Wagut and the Joint Association Inuit organized the demonstrations, bringing together students, families, workers, and politicians. The cause transcended politics. It was about identity, dignity, and the right to self-determination. The protests on January 17, 2026, were a direct response to Trump's threats of economic consequences for those who opposed him. What began as a diplomatic oddity had become an international crisis. Danes and Greenlanders felt their sovereignty and democratic values were under attack. Their answer was peaceful but resolute. Their land and people were not for sale. The sight of Danish and Greenlandic flags flying side by side symbolized a new solidarity. Despite a complex history, external pressure forged a powerful bond. The message was clear: Greenland is not real estate. It's a home, a nation, and a community with its own dreams. Any attempt to decide Greenland's future, without its people's consent, would be fiercely opposed. The world was put on notice. Copenhagen, Nuuk, and beyond stood united. This was more than a protest. It was a declaration of shared resolve. The unified stand marked a turning point in the relationship between Denmark and Greenland. Copenhagen became the epicenter of European protest. City Hall Square overflowed with thousands, a sea of red and white, colors of both Danish and Greenlandic flags. The mood was defiant, the message unmistakable. Protesters marched from the square to the U.S. Embassy, chanting in Danish, Greenlandic, and English. Their route was symbolic, a direct message to Washington. The march was peaceful but resolute, a demonstration of democratic strength. Grandparents marched with grandchildren, students wielded witty signs, and families stood shoulder to shoulder. The protest transcended age and background, uniting Danes in defense of their kingdom's integrity. Other cities, Aarhus, Aalborg, Odense, joined in solidarity, proving this was a nationwide movement. The message from every corner: the kingdom was united. The attempt to pressure Denmark into giving up Greenland was unacceptable. The protests sent a clear signal. Danish and Greenlandic sovereignty was not negotiable. The world saw a grassroots movement, not just political posturing. The people of Denmark stood up for their values, their identity, and their allies. The demonstration was a living lesson in civics and national pride. The unity displayed was a powerful rebuke to outside pressure. Copenhagen's cry for sovereignty echoed far beyond its streets. In Nuuk, Greenland's capital, history was made. Several thousand, nearly a quarter of the city's population, marched together. For Greenland, this was unprecedented. The protest was deeply personal. It was about homes, culture, land, and the future. Traditional clothing and Greenlandic flags filled the streets. Chants of Kalaallit Nunaat rang out. The world was reminded: Greenland is a living nation, not just an icy expanse. Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen marched with his people, signaling total unity. The government and citizens stood as one, rejecting the American plan outright. The image of leadership in the streets symbolized Greenland's democratic maturity. Years of growing autonomy culminated in this declaration. Greenlanders are not subjects to be transferred. They are citizens with the right to self-determination. The protest was a rejection of being treated as a commodity. The people of Nuuk spoke with one voice. Their future would be decided by Greenlanders, for Greenlanders. The demonstration was a milestone in Greenland's journey toward self-governance. The world took notice of their resolve. Nuuk's protest was a defining moment for the nation. The protests were fueled by more than the idea of selling Greenland. On January 16, 2026, President Trump threatened tariffs on countries opposing his plan. The next day, he announced a 10% tariff on goods from key European allies, escalating to 25% if resistance continued. The targeted nations included the UK, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland. Trump's tariff king persona and his posts on Truth Social only inflamed tensions. For Europeans, these tariffs felt like economic blackmail, punishment for defending sovereignty. The move was condemned as hostile and reckless, angering politicians, business owners, and consumers alike. The threat was no longer abstract, it was a direct attack on livelihoods. Instead of intimidating Denmark and its neighbors, the tariffs united them in opposition. The crisis transformed from a strange proposal into a major transatlantic standoff. The fight became about fair trade, mutual respect, and the rules-based order. Trump's approach backfired, strengthening European resolve. The tariffs made the Greenland issue a defining moment in U.S.-European relations. The world watched as alliances were tested. The economic threats only deepened the crisis. The standoff became a battle for principles, not just territory. Across Denmark and Greenland, one message rang out: "Greenland is not for sale." The slogan was everywhere, on banners, placards, and in chants. It captured the protesters' anger and pride, rejecting the idea of treating a nation as property. Other signs, "Hands off Greenland," "Respect our democracy," highlighted the political stakes. The chant, "Kalaallit Nunaat," honored Greenland's unique culture and identity. Danes and Greenlanders stood as partners, not subjects. The use of the native language was a powerful rejection of colonial attitudes. The collective voice was meant for Washington. This was not just a political dispute, but a matter of dignity. Public opinion was overwhelmingly against the U.S. plan. The protests showed that people power could challenge even a superpower. The world heard the people's voice, loud, clear, and united. Europe's response to Trump's threats was swift and unified. EU leaders issued a strong statement supporting Denmark's sovereignty and condemning U.S. pressure. The European Parliament halted ratification of a major EU-US trade deal, using economic leverage to counter the tariffs. Individual nations, UK, Finland, Norway, the Netherlands, reaffirmed support for Denmark. Germany and others sent troops to Greenland for joint NATO exercises, a symbolic show of solidarity. The EU made it clear: an attack on one member's sovereignty was an attack on all. Europe's united front demonstrated the strength of its alliances. Trump's attempt to isolate Denmark only brought Europe closer together. The crisis proved Europe could act decisively to defend its values. The wall of solidarity was a turning point in the standoff. Criticism of Trump's Greenland plan came from within the U.S. as well. A bipartisan congressional delegation traveled to Copenhagen, signaling not all Americans supported the president's approach. The House Foreign Affairs Committee and Republican Senator Tom Tillis condemned the tariffs, warning they would harm both allies and American consumers. Lawmakers stressed that alliances are built on trust, not threats. The dissent revealed a deep divide in U.S. foreign policy. Many believed diplomacy, not coercion, was the right path. This internal opposition gave hope for a more cooperative future. American voices of reason helped contain the crisis and reassured allies. At the heart of the crisis was Greenland's desire for self-determination. Decades of progress from colony to autonomous territory fueled their resolve. A 2025 poll showed 85% of Greenlanders opposed joining the U.S. Unity was overwhelming. Minister Naja Nathanielsen praised European solidarity as vital for Greenland's right to choose its future. The Self-Rule Act of 2009 gave Greenland control over most domestic affairs, with full independence as the ultimate goal. Trump's proposal ignored this democratic process, treating Greenland as a commodity. The fight was about more than politics. It was about culture, language, and identity. Greenlanders feared losing their way of life to American influence. The protests declared only Greenlanders would decide their future. Their determination to shape their own destiny was unmistakable. The crisis left a lasting mark on Greenland, Denmark, the U.S., and Europe. Greenland's unity and resolve inspired global respect. Denmark's diplomacy and European solidarity proved the power of alliances. The episode damaged U.S.-European trust, pushing Europe toward greater autonomy. The future of Greenland will be decided in Nuuk, not Washington or Copenhagen. For the U.S., the lesson was clear. Alliances require respect for sovereignty and democracy. The world watched as a small Arctic nation stood up for its rights. The will of the people proved a force that cannot be bought or sold. The story of Greenland's stand will echo for years to come.